Hi, in this video we'll be continuing with the C# video tutorials. So we'll be continuing our discussion on strings, string comparisons, so just some more information on that. Okay, so in addition to establishing a set of basically numeric data to represent characters with the Unicode Index, the Unicode Index, or the Unicode, so Unicode also establishes an order for the characters. The character A comes before the character B, which comes before the character C, so it's in order from A to Z, starting at A and ending at Z. So we'll actually do some examples of comparing strings and looking at some of the numbers, because if you're taking this in school, you'll get tested on this. So when code compares characters, it actually compares the codes for the characters. So the character A would be considered less than the character B. So we'll just note that down in our notes here. The reason is because the numeric index is the numeric index of A is less than of B's. So just less than a B's numeric index. So hopefully that makes sense. So for example, the string A, if we have str, so string str points to the character A, or the string A, and string str2 points to the string B, then if A is less than B, return true would return true. And if we say if A is greater than B, return true, then it would return, it wouldn't actually return anything. I think it depends. Well, if we could have an else case, if it was false and return false, then in that case it would return false. So strings comparing more than one character, we'll do some examples on that. Comparing them with an actual comparison string. So we'll have string str points to similar strings. Maybe let's go with blueberries, or blue. Let's just go with the blueberry. I know this isn't technically correct, but let's just try this. Like in English, it won't be correct, but in code it doesn't really matter. So we could have blueberries. The string str. So this is an example. Example 3, so string str points to blueberry. String str points to blueberries. Actually, let's just go with another example just because I have these numbers already laid out. I don't have to open the Unicode Index and calculate all this. So let's just say the string str is pointing to Mary. String str2 points to Mark. So as far as the Unicode Index goes, this is how it's going to look. So M is going to have the value 77. Lowercase a will have the value of 97. R will have the value of 114. And Y will have the value of 121. Now if we look at that side by side, so we'll just copy, obviously the first three are going to be the same, the first three characters in Mary and Mark are the same, so we'll just copy and paste that. And then the last one is going to be a K, which is going to be K, so we'll have the value 107. So basically you could just, I think you can just add these up, or you can just look at them. So 77, 97, 114, 77, 97, 114. Then at the last characters that we compare are going to be, so we go by the length, so this is a length of 4 characters, index 0, 1, 2, 3, length of 4 characters, index 0, 1, 2, 3. So M is 0, index 0, A is index 1, R is index 2, K is index 3, so index 3 of this string is Y. So in this case, as you can see, if the characters are the same, they're equal, but until the last character, which they're different, then in that case, Mark's going to be less than Mary because the value is less than. So K is going to be, has a value of 107, which is less than 121, which is the value of Y. Therefore, Mary should be greater than Mark, or Mark should be less than Mary. So they're compared left to right. So if the characters are the same, then the compiler tries to for example, if the M in Mary and the M in Mark are the same, then the next character will be compared, and that will continue. So A, R are going to be the same, so then the Y in Mary is compared with the K in Mark. Because these are not the same, the two strings are not equal. Thus the character Y has a higher character code, 121, than K, which has the value of 107. So in this case, Mary is greater than the string Mark. So you can use, I believe you can use the equal sign to kind of check this as well. Or you can use the compare method. So if one of the strings in comparison is shorter than the other, only the corresponding characters are compared. If the corresponding characters are identical, the shorter string is considered less than the longer string. So for example, if we compare the string high and high, so let's just do an example here of that. So high and high. So therefore, this high is going to be less than this high, obviously, because this high has more characters in it, which would make the value more. So again, you can always just add the numbers up if you really want to. That seems to work fine. Should work fine. Okay, so in C# you cannot use relational operators to determine whether one string is greater than or less than another string. Okay, so you have to use the compare method. So you can check if they're equal, but perhaps are not equal, but you can't check if which one's greater than the other. In that case, we just say string dot compare. str and then comma str2 if we have those defined. So let's say we had these ones defined up there, str and str2. So the method returns an integer value. So there's more to that. Returns an int value. So the value is greater than 0. Probably return like 1 or something if str is greater than str2. So returns 0 if they're equal, and less than oppositely if the other way around. Basically, if you flip this, it'll be less than. So you can always just test it out to make sure. Alright, so let's do another example then. Not a lab, but let's just look at another, how to do this properly. Okay, so let's just say example 4. Starting to get hot outside, okay. I'll have to crack the window a bit here. Alright, so we have, we basically have string str whatever points to some random fruit. String str points to plums. Or we could just let's just say we just have plums then. In a string literal, of course, we'll have plum and then plums. So we have that. So then we'll say if. Okay, sorry. So before I might have done this wrong. This actually I did. So this S should have been capital. So the string class is actually capitalized, I guess. But when we call string, we don't need to have them capital. Perhaps just because it's an object instantiation. We'll talk about that later on. So we have if string dot compare str, this should be str2. So if string dot compare str comma str2, so it's going to take two parameters. It's going to compare str to str2, separated by a comma for the parameters. Okay, so you can also throw this in another, basically, well, I guess, yeah, so it's in a statement. So you can do it like this. If string dot compare str comma str2 is less than 0, which is basically saying if the first string is less than the second string, I believe. Then here, message box dot show str1 plus str2. So message box dot show str1 plus a blank space plus str2. I have an else here. Message box dot show str2 plus blank space plus str1, or just str. Oops, forgot that one here. str plus blank space plus str, and this one should just be str. So if the first string is less than the second string, then it shows the first string in order, in alphabetical order, whatever. I think it's in alphabetical order. Otherwise, it shows. So if this statement is false, then it hits this else. So this one's false, then it goes to the else. This block is skipped. Then it shows the strings in non-alphabetical order, or actually, I think it's still in alphabetical order then. So yeah, it should order them in alphabetical order, because remember, A goes first and then Z in the way that it compares the strings. So remember, the string.compare method is case sensitive, of course. So that's pretty much it. Actually, well, we could have another one here. Okay, let's just go with this case sensitive example. So string str points to plum in capitals. Do the same thing here with just lowercase. If string.compare str, str2 is equal to 0, which means that they're the same, then show str plus the string and, so it's a concatenation, plus str2 are equal, which basically says that they're equal. Well, of course, it's not going to hit that one because it's false. So in this case, it'll go with str1, str2 and, or whatever, str1, or just str and str2 plus the string are not the same, or not equal. So if they're equal, because remember 0, it returns 0 if they're equal. So if string.compare, this string comparison, so if they're equal to 0, so if string.compare, which is, this is a method call here, so it's going to return, just pretend this is going to, this method, so it's going to check, what's going to happen is you can run this through the debugger, but it'll put you in some developer generated code because the compare method was developed by some C# developer. Those can be long, random codes that you might not want to get stuck in. So actually, well, maybe you could just kind of step out of, or basically step out of that. So you can kind of skip this method call. We'll talk about that later on. But basically, string.compare, so it'll say, okay, well, I'm going to check this condition. So let's just say the execution here, there's an arrow here. Let's just pretend there's an arrow there. We have a breakpoint set there, or whatever, we're just there, and it's on the debugger, and it's stopped. It's waiting for you to execute. So it's gonna execute. So what the compiler is gonna do? It's gonna say, okay, well, if string.compare str, str2 is equal to 0, then it's gonna say, well, okay, well, this is asking me, the code is asking me to execute this method call first. So it's going to jump into this method string.compare and pass it's going to pass str and str2 as parameters. So it's going to perform this method call. It's going to pass these. It's going to pass str and str2 as parameters. And remember, string.compare returns an integer. So it's going to perform the method call. It's going to return an integer. So then pretend like math, you can just substitute this whole expression for a value. So pretend we could just delete this and put like 1. Let's say return 1. Then it's going to be like, the compiler is going to check, okay, well, since that method returned 1, if 1 is equal to 0, then perform this. Well, obviously that's false. That doesn't make sense because 1 is not equal to 0 rationally. So it's going to execute this statement. So hopefully that makes sense. That's what's really happening. You can always try to step into that. You can step through that in the debugger. That's kind of getting into some more advanced coding stuff. Method calls, which are happening in conditionals. That's pretty much it. So probably just end it there. So that'll end the string comparisons and the string discussion for this chapter. So we'll be getting into preventing data conversion exceptions with the try parse methods. Might have a bit to do with that. Couple code examples. Then we'll do validating data in multiple text boxes. Still kind of associated with that. We'll do a lab to practice. What are we going to practice? We're going to practice basically what we discussed, comparing strings, and what I just said a second ago, whatever that was. Then we'll do input validation. Then we'll get into some GUI concepts, radio buttons, and checkboxes. So quite a bit to do here, so then we go at that. What else we have? Just to tell you guys what's coming up in the series. We'll go over the switch statement quickly. Then we'll do list boxes, so yeah, there's quite a bit to do here. Then some GUI stuff, and then we'll be getting back into some C# stuff like while loops and all that. So it'll probably take us a while. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys like the video, you can like the channel, subscribe to the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.